Guys, there's a new wave in Australia, biodynamic influences in wine. Pascal, you come from a long history in biodynamic growing in Burgundy. What do you mean by the term biodynamic?
I think that I started with biodynamics in 1988. I started to look at that, to meet with biodynamic growers. Back then, the thing was that these growers that were biodynamics, they were not, they were so much focusing on biodynamics that they were not great winemakers. And the image of biodynamic was not very good, but then it leads to some good producers, good domains, who were already producing great wines, got into that, and I think it lifted the image of biodynamics, because these people had a history of good winemaking, of good, and so it changed the whole view on biodynamics. And that being said, I think that there's two ways of looking at biodynamics. There is a dogmatic way, where people are almost into a religion. This is like the first people I've met. And then there's a way more, because what it did to me, I think it helped me to look at the nature another way, or to observe more the nature and to try to work with the forces of the nature. That's, I think, the most important in biodynamic to me. If you look at the history of agriculture, farmers and peasants for centuries had worked with the nature. They were looking at the moon, they were really observing the nature, and they were not trying to control the nature, but they were trying to work with the nature. And after World War II, with the rise of the chemical industry, it changed people's mind, and most of the farmers and most of the industry thought we could control the nature with these chemicals and everything. But on the long run, after a few decades, we realized that it doesn't work. We cannot control nature. Even if we have powerful tools, nature is always stronger. So I think this is the good thing about biodynamics, and why more and more people are getting into that. It's because it brings back to an era how the farmers, how they were minded before. And yeah, you try to work with these forces, and you try to me that's the most important. Observe and work with the nature.
I think it was really important that we sent Dave Botting, our chief viticulturalist, and Dave Burch, our vineyard manager, to Burgundy, and they spent a lot of time with Pascal and looked at a lot of biodynamic vineyards and methods, and not only came back very enthused, but came back trying to match some science behind the biodynamic practices. And a lot of it comes down to very good common sense. And so we're moving very strongly in that direction. We have the Leston Vineyard in Margaret River, which is supplying some Shiraz for this project. And we've got our Scottsdale Vineyard in which we're developing. We've planted Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. Some of the things we're doing is we've enclosed the vineyard. We've got sheep in there to keep the grass down, so it's getting rid of the weeds, but at the same time it's giving us some natural fertiliser. We're putting some natural compost into the vineyard, which is our grape marc mixed in with some animal fertilisers, right? So they're natural fertilisers that we can put into the vineyard. And we'll gradually move increasingly towards biodynamic. We've also got 2 or 3 growers that we are working with in Prongerups and Mount Barker, and they are also moving towards biodynamic. So our intention over the next few years is to have all of the fruit that is being sourced for Marchand Burch to come from biodynamic vineyards, and we're very encouraged in the direction that we're going.
And the great thing also is that what I see, and this is something that I've always seen, when we started the project 2 years ago, I started to talk about biodynamic, and at the beginning there was a bit of suspicion and a bit of, but now that we are slowly, we slowly got into it, and finally things are going much faster than we thought they were at the beginning. And we can see, the enthusiasm of Dave Burch, and Dave Butting behind who's getting into it. And I've always seen that once you put your finger in that engrenage, you cannot back up, because that way of working, I think, is more, I don't know, there's something that is attracting in that way of working.
It's great to have very enthusiastic people working on the project. We've got a great team of people working on the project. One of the blocks, we've got a high intensity planted block, 7,500 vines. So it's a very, very close planting, and it requires a lot more attention from all of the vineyard staff. It's not an easy block to work, but it's a elevated block. It's a hilly block. It's got poor soil. Everything's got to be done by hand, and they've nicknamed this block a grandstand, and we have very high hopes that we're going to get some high quality fruit in time off this block. But it's great to see that work was being done on that block.